And welcome back. My name is Keith. You already know that. My name is Uhfgood, the name I use online, and you know that too. What am I talking like this for? I don't know. I just think I'm being funny. I'm a funny guy. Okay. So, when we last left our hero, he was just going nuts because he doesn't know what's going on. Halfway, the Wizard Supreme and the King's Advisor just got fired and finds out Enchanted Lands is purchased by some stranger known as Max. Uh, okay, so I'll just say, hotels, most of the hotels, dining places, and schools. We'll say it like that. Okay, halfway the Wizard Supreme. Okay, so some stranger known as Max. I knew what I was going to go for when I started this, but now I'm not sure. I should have just, I don't know, I should have just cut it before I started that and then started the next full deal with this, and then I would have got back into my flow. I'm out of my flow now. Okay, so the goal is to figure out how to set things right. Um, so okay, so we're going to end this part with the first plot point where John enters the realm. So Max's goal, or Halfway's goal, is to find John. And actually that's not a bad thing here, because okay, so Halfway, realizing he can't do this himself, needs to find some outside help. Okay, and actually, there's one thing that I forgot here. I didn't really forget it. I mean, I mentioned it to you because in most of the iterations I had this opening, this like fancy schmancy opening. The writing is real good. I think when people read it, they thought it was cool because I described it. Basically, what happens is John goes through this portal and he ends up in what seems to appear to be a train car. It's like the Victorian seats, the nice plush red seats, and all manner of like creatures and fairies and people in wizards robes and dwarves and fantasy creatures. Uh, Probably the various creatures you'll find in the game are sitting there. And as he's looking around, now the one thing to notice, probably only notice if you watched it, is that nobody seems disturbed or surprised that he's even in there, because presumably they're so used to magic and how the Quicksilver works, because the Quicksilver is what the Enchanted Lands runs on. It's a mineral that they mine that has magical properties to it, and it's basically what all the magic for Enchanted Lands comes from, and they use it pretty much like we use electricity. It's for pretty much for modern conveniences, like lights, and it's not candle lights. It's magic light and magic mirrors, two-way magic mirrors, one-way magic mirror. They can watch like television shows, even though they're not. Maybe magic mirror plays or something. Um, they get hot water in the resorts, and it's kind of modern in the fact that that everything kind of runs on this mineral. So he lands in there and he looks around and he starts walking back toward the seats, and or he doesn't walk towards the seats. He looks around. He looks back toward the seats, and he notices that there's this beautiful woman. Obviously she's some kind of royalty. She has got these, this dress, and she looks like what fairy tale princess, right? And then he sees someone from several seats behind this girl walk up to her, and then he sprinkles some magic dust on her, like some pixie dust or something. It won't exactly be pixie dust because that's that's Peter Pan, but it's like fairy dust or something. And she instantly falls asleep. Then this little guy, and he's a real little guy. He's smaller than a dwarf. We find out later he's a gnome. But he's this real little guy with a beard and the pointy hat, like the garden gnomes. He kind of looks like a garden gnome, right? An evil garden gnome. And he walks over to this princess-like person, and since she's knocked out, he hefts her up over his shoulder, and even though he's really small, he's extremely strong, and he's able to lightly put her over his shoulder, and maybe he's just tall enough that her head doesn't hit the floor. Okay, so then he runs over to the side. I didn't think this one through because it possibly could be a door. Maybe it's a door. But he goes over and he places this little device that it looks like a little pedestal, like a little round wooden disc with 3 jewels coming out of it, 3 gems, and he sticks it on the wall, and then he puts in he touches each of the tips of the gems in a sequence, and they start blinking and turning, and then soon the thing starts going out of control, and he opens the door and he jumps out, and then soon things are spinning around and around, and John stumbles to the door and he looks out and he notices that they're in the air. And, he thought this was a train, right? But they're in the air, so how can they be in the air in the train? And it turns another way, and then he rolls back into the aisle, and then he hits the wall, and then he blacks out. And then next thing you see, he's waking up, and he's in this kind of forest that looks like it's winter. The air is very warm, but there's no leaves on the trees, and so he wakes up, and then halfway approaches him, and of course he doesn't know who this guy is. He's also got a beard and a pointy hat, and he looked kind of like your typical wizard, and not very tall, but not very short, and long beard and all that stuff. And he starts talking to him, and John's kind of disoriented, and he follows him. So, and then there's a story about this terrible beast in this forest that will, if anybody lingers too long, he's going to come and he's going to kill him, or do something terrible to whoever's there. And when he looks around, he notices that it was indeed a train. It was a train in the air. And he notices that a lot of the people, they're just getting up. A lot of them don't seem hurt, but that some seem shaken, some seem a little bit hurt, whatever. And it's like they all just grab their things if they could spot them, and they run, get out of the forest as soon as possible. And John doesn't know what's going on. He's a little dazed, and you find out it's this forest. They call it the Forest of Fading Thoughts, which I thought was at the time was kind of cool, and now it sounds kind of dumb, but the idea is the longer you stay in the forest, the more you forget, you know. And it's said like the trees have forgotten to grow leaves, and in fact, that could actually be part of the game, part of the story, where maybe after they fix everything, then the forest blooms again, and it's no longer, you know, the the forest of fading thoughts. Now it's the forest of remembrance, or the forest of great memories, or something. So you go in there and you can experience great memories of your childhood. Say, okay, that's just stuff I'm coming up with there at the end. So now we have a princess in the land, and actually I was going to open with that, but considering here that we haven't got to John until maybe the end of this part, then all of that stuff can actually start in part 2, right? And what I have up here for part 2, I have basically, it says, what did I do up here? Part 2, John and Halfway discovered that Maximilian is not the previously banished sorcerer Maximilian spell. Also, the tourists were taken were now zombified slaves. Okay. So, a little bit of a backstory, which I was thinking about maybe turning into a game, and I still could, and I don't know, maybe not, is that Maximilian's spell has been here before. He was banished for trying kind of what he's trying now. What he did is he abducted tourists and then brought them down and was doing experiments on them to see if he could get them to turn into magical beings, so they could become his army and he could take over Enchanted Lands. Now the plan kind of fell through. There are several reasons. One is Halfway had all of his magic, and so he was able to thwart him. So part of the deal was getting rid of him, and then what I had like a bunch of different different things in there that happened before. Like I had this whole backstory of where he basically tried to take over Enchanted Lands, and so he was trying to do that, and then so this time he gets back in, and there's a special reason or way he gets back in, and that is he has a little bit of Quicksilver on his person. So it's either he stole it, or he had it hidden in the lining of his jacket, or some such thing like that, before he was banished, so he could come back in. So now thinks he's got everything covered. So and he tries to and also his ambition has gotten bigger. So he kidnaps the princess because her people have magical abilities, and supposedly they can imbue non-magic people with abilities, and so he wants to see if he can try to get her that ways. So that's why she gets kidnapped. And then Halfway, he was a regular wizard. He was advisor to the king. He was really wise, and he got half of his magic taken away. Well, part of the thing about wizards when they get married, or when they're going to get married, is they give away half of their magic to their spouse, or their would-be spouse. So Harold manages to give this away to this woman, and she leaves him, and she takes it to somebody else, and so now he's only got half of his magic. Okay, so instead of, okay, I'm just rolling in, I'm realizing I'm out of time for this video, and I will have to catch you on the next time because I need to stop here, basically. So I will continue the story. I will tell you a little bit more about the backstory. We will solve this thing about what the plot's about. So the plot is going to be about actually Harold doesn't know who he can trust, and so he's figuring he's going to get some outside help, and that's going to be what part one's going to be about. Part one's going to be about him finding the person that he needs to help him, and he needs some sort of special person, and so we will see how that works out the next time, and I'll get into more of the story. And actually, I will, since today I did story, tomorrow I'll do something else. I don't know, maybe, yeah, let's just close that. Maybe looking for engines and stuff, because I might not have to be able to use Armory. So with that, I will say thanks for watching, and watch again tomorrow and see what's going to unfold. Thanks for watching.